Hey everybody, this is Robert with Loan and Key Mortgage. Today I'm going to talk to you about seller concessions and who they benefit and how they benefit you. There are three benefactors for seller concessions. That's going to be the seller, real estate agent, as well as the buyer. Let's go through the buyer scenario first. So the buyer, you're focused on that down payment, not really worried about closing costs because you don't know what those closing costs are. You're focused on how much you have for a down payment. So if that's the case, then you're going to have to ask either your real estate agent if the seller is willing to give some seller concessions at closing. What that allows the real estate agent and the seller, that allows them to keep the property listing at the value that it is listed at, not deviate down from what the listing price is, even though as a buyer, you're going to want to buy it for as little as possible. But sometimes, hey, I'm going to save $20,000 on the asking price, but you're not going to see that break even point until 15 to 16 years, depending on what it is. In the scenario I'm thinking of right now is a home that's listed at $350,000 and you say, hey, you know what? Let me give you 330, saving $20,000. Yeah, that's $100 in savings each month, depending on what the interest rate is. And, I'm just using rough estimates. But say if you ask the real estate agent, hey, what if we keep it at asking price and get seller concessions from the person who wants to unload the property? Depending on what your down payment is, that's going to be a variable on what you're available for those seller concessions. If you're putting less than 10% down, you're available for 3% of seller concessions. So they're going to be able to say at closing, we can provide these seller concessions to your closing costs. So whatever you're going to have to pay at closing costs, that will eat a little bit away and you're going to have to pay the remainder. Now, if you have 10% or more, I would have to say 11% to 24%, then you're allowed to receive 6% of those seller concessions towards closing costs. If your down payment is going to be 25% or greater, then you're allowed up to 9% going towards closing for your seller concessions. Now, FHA, there's a few different rules with FHA. Now, the max is going to be 6%, which is still great. That's still in that meaty area where it's going to pay a lot of your closing costs and you're mostly going to focus on down payment. There's going to be a few things out of pocket that you're going to have to pay for, maybe appraisal, maybe closing, or not closing, but credit report, because those are up front. But then everything else, will be a little bit towards those closing costs, and you may not have to pay that much out of closing costs depending on what your down payment is. So now investment properties, those two are allowed seller concessions. So say if you own a home and you're looking to buy an investment property, you're able to get 2% of seller concessions paid at closing if the seller is willing to give over that 2%. Now, it's not a loan that the seller is giving you. They are just granting you, giving you goodwill, saying, here you go for your closing costs. That is a great way for them to say, I didn't have to negotiate down. I got full asking price of what I sold. And that is awesome because who doesn't want to say, hey, I got what I listed my house at? Real estate agents, that's great for you because same thing. I didn't have to negotiate downward. I got to list the property at $350,000 or whatever the case may be. And I didn't have to negotiate downward. I listed it at that. So it's a win-win for everybody. And if you want to find out more about seller concessions and how they can benefit you, because I've given you a lot, but I shotgunned it to you or fire hydrant it to you, tons of information real quick. But if you want to make a contact with me, my information will be down below. You can contact me or my colleague Tara or even Damien. You'll see their information down below. We will be more than willing to jump on a phone call and say, oh, you want to talk seller concessions? How it's going to work for you? We can run through that scenario and I can create a live total cost analysis for your scenario so you can see exactly what you're going to be getting into before you sign any paperwork. Because I want to make sure each and every person that I help out with a mortgage isn't sold, but they're wanting and they're understanding what they're buying. Because that's a terrible thing to be sold into something. I know I don't want to be. I know you don't want to be. You want to be educated to where you're intelligently buying something, especially when it's going to be the most expensive purchase of your lifetime. And that is a home, a mortgage. So reach out to us at Loan and Key Mortgage, and we'll be more than happy to jump on a phone call with you and give you all the ins and outs of what's available to you, even if it's just a conversation. There's no obligation. Just knowledge is what we're willing to give you. And if you want to work with us, awesome. If you don't, we want to make sure you're armed and ready for your next mortgage purchase. Talk to you soon, friends.